Uh, I want to start today's deep dive with a confession. A slightly embarrassing one,
Oh
actually.
boy. All right, let's hear it.
So, I was at the airport last week, just killing time in one of those, those really high-end gift shops.
The ones that sell the $10 bottles of water?
Exactly, the $10 water and those memory foam neck pillows that literally never work.
Never.
And I found myself just standing in front of this beautifully lit glass display case. And inside it, there was this tiny polished piece of rose quartz on a silver chain.
Rose quartz. Classic.
Right. And the packaging said, and I'm quoting this verbatim because I actually took a picture of it on my phone, it said, "Heart chakra activator, instantly unblocks emotional stagnation."
Wow. Instantly.
Yeah.
That's a very expensive adverb right there.
It really is. And the price tag was $60. But here's the thing. For a split second, I looked at it and I thought, man, I have been really stressed out lately. I've been feeling kind of closed off. Maybe I need this.
You almost bought it.
I almost bought it. I
Right.
actually had my credit card halfway out of my wallet.
And see, that right there is the absolute perfect example of the wellness industrial complex in action. It identifies a genuine internal problem, right? Stress, emotional blockage. And it offers you an external purchasable solution.
Right. Just tap your card and you're enlightened.
Exactly. But today, we're going to take a sledgehammer to that glass display case. We're doing a deep dive into the book Kundalini, an untold story by Om Swami.
Yes, we are.
And if there is one headline from this entire source, it is this. If you think you can buy spiritual awakening for $60 at an airport, or even at a high-end yoga retreat in Bali, you are hallucinating.
It is a brutal reality check. But man, it is a necessary one. Because the author effectively says that thinking a pretty stone can spin your chakra is like thinking you can fix a broken car engine by just painting the hood.
Right. It might look nice, but the mechanics underneath haven't changed at all.
That analogy just completely grabbed me. Because we see this everywhere now, don't we? You've got chakra balancing sprays, Kundalini activation playlists on Spotify,
Don't forget the special incense.
the incense, the mats. But the source material opens with this anecdote that just completely dismantles this whole industry. He talks about a woman named Veena.
Yes, Veena.
Mm.
And I think it's really important to note for you listening that Veena wasn't some naive, gullible person. She was a highly successful businesswoman. She was smart. She was already involved in things like feng shui. She read tarot. She was a genuine seeker.
Right, she wasn't a novice.
Not at all.
Hmm.
But she came to the author deeply distressed because a so-called chakra expert had told her that her chakras were, quote, not spinning correctly.
Which, I mean, to me, that sounds exactly like a mechanic telling you your transmission is slipping. Like, oh, sorry, ma'am, your heart chakra is wobbling. That's going to cost you a fortune.
That is almost exactly how Om Swami responds in the text. He basically asks her, do you think you're a motor car that's gone out of alignment? But Veena was dead serious. She had gone out and bought this incredibly expensive pendant. We're talking white gold, ruby, emerald, sapphire. Because the expert told her it would balance her heart chakra simply by touching her skin.
And what was the verdict from the source on that? Because I think a lot of people, they want to believe the jewelry works. It's pretty. It feels nice. Does it actually do anything?
The verdict was incredibly blunt. He tells her, look, it's touching your skin, but it isn't doing anything else. And he uses this fantastic metaphor. He says, chakras are not like jar lids.
Her lids.
Yes. You can't just go to a guru or a healer and have them pop the lid off your soul like it's a jar of pickles.
That image is so funny to me. Just pop okay, you're enlightened. That'll be $500 at the front desk.
Precisely. You can't pay someone to open them for you. The source is unequivocally clear about this. External objects, pendants, incense, crystals, have absolutely zero to do with the actual awakening of Kundalini. If someone claims they can awaken your Kundalini just by touching your forehead, they're lying.
So it's an internal job.
Completely. The source says the only way to awaken it is through intense, prolonged, rigorous meditation. It is an internal engineering project, not an external shopping trip.
Okay, so we've established what it's not. It's not a jar lid. It's not a mood ring. And it's certainly not a Spotify playlist. But the word Kundalini is one of those words that just gets thrown around constantly in pop culture now.
Oh, constantly.
I've heard it used to describe everything from just a really good stretching session to a literal nervous breakdown. What is the actual definition we are working with here, according to the text?
To really understand that, we have to look at a beautiful analogy provided in the text involving Hanuman. You know Hanuman, right? The monkey god from the Ramayana.
Yeah, the one with the super strength. I've seen the statues of him where he's usually ripping his own chest open.
That's the one. But the backstory is crucial here. As a child, Hanuman had infinite strength. He could leap across oceans. The texts say he once looked up at the sun, thought it was just a giant ripe mango, and literally leaped up into the sky to swallow it.
He tried to eat the sun.
He tried to eat the sun, and he nearly succeeded. But because he was mischievous, he was a child with godlike power, wreaking havoc on the ashrams of these holy sages, he ended up being cursed.
Cursed by the sages, he was annoying.
Yes. And the nature of the curse is the whole point of the metaphor. The curse wasn't that he lost his strength. The curse was that he would forget his strength.
Oh.
He would walk around thinking he was just a regular garden variety monkey. He had total amnesia about his own divinity and power. The curse stated he would only remember his infinite nature when someone else reminded him of who he truly was.
I see exactly where this is going. We are the monkey.
We are the monkey. The foundational premise of this deep dive, and of Kundalini Yoga in general, is that human beings are born with an infinite dormant potential. But we have accepted a severely limited version of reality.
Like, I am this body, I have this job, I have this mortgage, I am mortal.
Exactly. We identify with the limitations. But Kundalini is that dormant energy. It is the force that makes us infinite. Now, in the text, it is not described as a literal physical snake inside your body, even though the word Kundalini translates to the coiled one.
Right, that's a common misconception. People think there's a literal snake energy squirming around in their spine.
It's symbolic. It is described as the feminine aspect of the divine, the Shakti energy, lying dormant at the base of the spine in the Muladhara center, basically waiting to be reminded of what it can do, waiting to be woken up.
So the goal of this practice isn't to acquire something new. It's not like downloading a software update for your brain. It's more like remembering the factory settings.
That is a perfect way to put it. The goal isn't to see pretty lights or levitate, although the texts do say weird supernatural things can happen along the way.
Which we'll get into later.
Oh, we will.
Yeah.
But the ultimate goal is the realization of the phrase, I am complete. It's a fundamental shift from a state of constant needing validation, needing material things, needing constant distraction, to realizing that the source of the entire universe is already sitting inside you.
It's about becoming efficient and powerful.
Right. It's about becoming the master of your own internal world, so the external world can't throw you off balance.
Okay, so we've established the metaphor for what it is. But to really grasp the gravity of this, we have to go back, way back. The source material takes us deeply into some heavy mythology to explain the origins of this knowledge.
It does.
And honestly, when I was reading this section, I was expecting some gentle, peaceful, meditative fables. But this story is intense. It's basically Game of Thrones, but with more arms and flying weapons.
It is intensely dramatic.
Yeah.
But as we get into this, we have to remember that these myths are actually psychological maps. They aren't just historical stories about gods fighting in the sky. They're detailed diagrams of what happens inside your own psyche.
Right. Okay, let's unpack the story of Sati and Shiva, because according to the source, this is the foundational myth of Kundalini.
Let's do it.
So, set the scene for us. You have Daksha, who is this incredibly powerful king. He's basically the establishment.
Daksha represents the ego. Keep that in mind. He loves rules. He loves hierarchy. He loves looking good in front of the neighbors. He decides to hold a massive yagna, which is a grand sacrificial fire ritual. Think of it as the ultimate social event of the millennium.
The Met Gala of ancient mythology.
Exactly. He invites absolutely everyone, gods, sages, the influencers of the day, but he specifically and intentionally excludes Shiva.
And Shiva is his son-in-law, which makes it incredibly awkward. Why does Daksha hate Shiva so much?
Because Shiva represents pure consciousness. He is the ultimate ascetic. He hangs out in cremation grounds. He smears his body with ash. He wears snakes as jewelry. He doesn't care about social norms or royal protocols.
He's the ultimate anti-establishment figure.
He is. And the ego Daksha hates pure consciousness Shiva, because consciousness doesn't play by the ego's rules. The ego desperately wants to be flattered and recognized. Consciousness just is. It doesn't care about the party.
That makes total psychological sense. It's like the uptight corporate CEO absolutely loathing the guy who lives in a van down by the river but is genuinely happier than him.
Perfect analogy.
So Daksha hates Shiva. But Sati, who is Shiva's wife and Daksha's daughter, she decides to go to the party anyway. She just wants to see her family.
Right. And Shiva tells her, don't go. You weren't invited. It is going to be a disaster. But she goes.
And when she arrives, the ego Daksha doesn't just ignore her. He publicly humiliates her. He insults Shiva in front of the entire cosmic assembly. He calls him a beggar, a dweller of graveyards, someone completely unworthy of respect.
Now remember the symbolism. Sati is the embodiment of energy. She is Shakti. When energy hears consciousness being insulted and degraded by the ego, it cannot sustain itself.
And this is the part of the story that really shocked me. Sachi doesn't just storm out of the party. She doesn't flip a table or yell at her dad. She sits down, enters a deep yogic trance, and literally burns herself to ashes with her own internal fire.
Spontaneous combustion.
She spontaneously combusts.
It is a devastating, violent image. But psychically, think about what it means for you and me. When your energy is subjected to the constant overbearing dominance of your ego and it gets cut off from your higher consciousness, it burns out.
Wow.
It literally destroys itself. This is what we call modern burnout. This is deep depression. This is the collapse of the spirit. The story is essentially telling us that energy Shakti cannot survive without the respect and presence of consciousness Shiva.
But then Shiva finds out what happened to Sati, and he does not take it well.
No, he does not. This is where we see the Rudra aspect of Shiva, the destroyer. He pulls a single lock of his hair and smashes it against the ground in pure grief and rage.
And from that lock of hair, two terrifying beings are created, Virahadra and Bhadrakali.
Yes, and these aren't peaceful, meditating yogis. These are symbols of pure, unadulterated, destructive rage. They go straight to the party, they destroy the sacrificial fires, and Virabhadra literally cuts off Daksha's head.
Talk about a party crasher, so the ego gets decapitated.
Yes, but notice the resolution of the myth. This is the key to the whole psychological map. Shiva eventually calms down. The rage subsides. He restores Daksha to life. But he doesn't give him his old, handsome head back.
No, he replaces Daksha's head with the head of a goat.
A goat.
I'm sorry, I know this is sacred ancient mythology, but whenever I read this, I just picture a distinct centaur in reverse situation. A dignified king's body walking around with a goat's head. It sounds ridiculous.
It is ridiculous. That is exactly the point. Daksha was the most beautiful, arrogant, well-spoken king in the universe. He cared about his appearances above all else. And now, for the rest of eternity, whenever he tries to speak, he has to walk around bleeding like a goat. It is the ultimate humiliation.
So it's not just about a violent punishment, it's about fundamentally altering his nature.
Exactly. It symbolizes the necessary killing of arrogance. The ego is allowed to live. I mean, you need an ego to function in the real world, right?
Huh.
To pay your taxes, to drive a car, to have a career. But it must be humble. It must be made subservient to the higher consciousness. It is a complete restructuring of the human psyche. You can't kill the ego entirely, but you can make it wear a goat head so it finally stops taking itself so seriously.
That is such a profound way to look at mythology. It's not history, it's a literal diagram of how to fix your own narcissism.
Exactly.
But the story continues from there. Sati dies, but the energy itself can't stay dead forever, so she comes back as Parvati.
Correct. Sati is reincarnated as Parvati, the daughter of the Himalayas. And she is absolutely determined to marry Shiva again.
But Shiva is in deep meditation. He's totally checked out of the world. He's grieving the loss of Sati.
He is. So the gods have a major problem. They desperately need Shiva to wake up, get married, and have a child because there's a specific demon that only his child can defeat. So they decide to send Kama.
Kama is the god of desire, right? Basically the Indian equivalent of Cupid.
Yes, they send Kama to shoot a literal love arrow at Shiva to wake him up.
And usually, in every rom-com or myth ever written, this works perfectly. The arrow hits, the music swells, they fall madly in love. But this is Shiva we're talking about.
Right. Shiva senses the disturbance in his meditation. He opens his third eye, which is the eye of ultimate wisdom and destruction, and he blasts Kama. He incinerates desire instantly. Kama turns to a pile of ash.
So now you have a universe with absolutely no desire, which, sounds peaceful in theory. No greed, no lust, no ambition. But the source points out that it was actually a total disaster.
It was a cosmic catastrophe.
Oh.
Because without desire, there is no procreation. There's no creativity. There's no movement whatsoever. The trees stop growing. The universe just becomes entirely stagnant.
So Shiva realizes he messed up.
He agrees to a compromise. He lets Kama live again, but as a Nanga.
A Nanga. The bodiless one. That sounds a little eerie.
It's profound, really. It means that desire still exists in the universe, but it has no physical form anymore. It lives inside all of us as an invisible mental force. And this specific moment leads us directly to the text known as the Lalita Sahasranama, the 1,000 names of the goddess.
Which the source mentions is very important.
It's crucial. The source tells us this ancient text is the very first place where Kundalini and chakras are explicitly mentioned as a concrete methodology. Because the whole point of Kundalini practice is to take that internal, bodiless desire, that Shakti, and merge it with consciousness Shiva in a highly controlled way.
So you don't burn up like Sati or get decapitated like Daksha.
Exactly. You engineer the reunion safely.
Okay, so we have the myth. We have the why. Now let's transition to the how. How did this incredibly secret, powerful information get from the gods to us mere mortals? Because the source outlines this specific lineage of knowledge, and what struck me is how surprisingly fragile it is.
It is incredibly fragile.
It's not like they posted the instructions on a blog for everyone to see.
No, it's essentially a cosmic game of telephone that lasted for thousands of years. The knowledge started with Hayagriva, who is an avatar of Vishnu, and he was teaching a great sage named Agastya.
Now, Agastya is a major heavy hitter in Indian mythology, isn't he?
Oh, absolutely. He's the sage who is said to have drank the entire ocean to expose demons hiding at the bottom. He is immensely powerful. But even he struggled with this specific knowledge.
How so?
Well, the source notes that Agastya meditated on the goddess for 5,000 years.
5,000 years. And he still didn't get the full result. I mean, that doesn't seem fair at all.
It wasn't about fairness. It was about the missing piece of the puzzle. He had infinite devotion, but he lacked the tantra.
The technique.
The technique, the method. This is a massive distinction the source makes. You can have all the faith and devotion in the world, you can sit in a cave for millennia, but if you don't actually know the internal engineering, you won't get the result.
It's like trying to build a NASA rocket with just a really strong belief in space travel. You need the blueprints.
Exactly. You need the blueprints. And the rule of this knowledge is that it cannot be stolen and it cannot be rushed. It must be given by someone who already holds it. Eventually, Shiva grants the secret tantra to Agastya.
And from there, the lineage passes down. It goes from Agastya to Dattatreya to Parashurama to Vashishta, and finally down to a sage named Parashara. And this is where the story gets really cinematic again.
It really does.
Parashara is walking along a riverbank, holding this explosive, universe-altering knowledge in his mind. And he sees a fisherwoman named Matsyagandha ferrying a boat.
Matsyagandha literally translates to she who smells of fish. She is a completely ordinary, simple woman working on the river. But Parashara is a master astrologer.
Right.
He looks up at the stars, he calculates the exact time, and he realizes that the astrological alignment at that very precise second is absolutely perfect to create a being who can finally document all this secret knowledge for humanity.
So it's like this brief cosmic window of opportunity, a download window from the universe.
Exactly. But it's broad daylight. They are exposed on a little boat in the middle of a river. So Parashara uses his yogic powers to create a mystical fog.
An island of mist.
Yes. An island of mist to hide the sun and give them total privacy. And through their union in that moment, a profound transformation happens to her.
Matsyagandha loses the smell of fish.
She does. She begins to smell intensely of divine lotuses. She literally becomes known as Yorjanagandha, which means she whose fragrance can be smelled for miles.
I just love that sensory detail. It's such a visceral shift. From the smell of raw, dead fish, representing the mundane world, to the smell of lotuses, representing spiritual awakening.
It's beautiful symbolism.
And the child that is born from that mystical union.
That child is Vedvyasa.
And if you were listening and you don't know who Vedvyasa is, he is arguably the most important literary and spiritual figure in India history. He wrote the Mahabharata, he compiled all the Vedas, he wrote the Puranas.
The source argues that Vyasa is the very first true human adept of Kundalini.
And I love the implication there. It implies that Kundalini isn't just a practice for sitting completely still in a cave and feeling blissed out. It is the ultimate engine behind massive creativity. The greatest epic poem in human history, which, by the way, the Mahabharata is roughly 10 times longer than the Iliad and the Odyssey combined, came from this awakened energy.
That is the ultimate so what of this entire section. Kundalini is creative force, period. Whether you are trying to write a book, build a massive business, or just fundamentally restructure your own chaotic life, that energy comes from the exact same internal source. Vyasa is just the ultimate proof of concept.
He channeled that energy into words that literally define an entire civilization.
He did.
Okay, so we know this energy is powerful. We know it drives creativity. But why is it so incredibly hard to access? Why aren't we all just walking around writing epic poetry and smelling like lotuses?
Right.
The source talks about these things called granthas, knots. Psychological knots that bind this energy down and trap it in the lower centers.
This is where we get into the anatomy of our own obstacles. It's not just about casually opening chakras. The real work is about painfully untying these granthas. The text actually compares it to a Buddhist story about Ananda, who was the Buddha's primary disciple.
Tell us about Ananda.
Well, Ananda spent his entire adult life serving the Buddha. He loved the Buddha deeply. He was literally by his side constantly. But he could not get enlightened while the Buddha was alive.
Why not? I mean, he was hanging out with the Buddha 24/7. That seems like the best spiritual internship possible.
Because he was deeply attached to the Buddha as a person. The Buddha himself told him, you have to cut the cord. You cannot be totally free if you are tethered to something, even if the thing you are tethered to is holy.
Wow.
That is the exact nature of a granthi. It binds you. It limits your infinity by tying you to a specific identity or desire.
Let's break down these 3 specific knots, because I think if you're listening to this, you are going to identify painfully with at least one of them. The first one, the source details, is the Brahma Granthi, the knot of creation.
Right. This knot is located at the base of the spine. It encompasses the Muladhara and Svadhisthana chakras. This knot is entirely tied to the raw compulsion to create and procreate.
So we're talking about the drive for sex, for making money, for achieving status, for accumulating things.
Exactly. The primal survival and replication drives.
But hold on a second. Isn't that just being a living human being? I mean, we all need money to survive. Most people desire sex and relationships. Is the source saying we all need to become celibate, penniless monks to untie this knot?
Not at all. And this is a very common, very damaging misconception. The source is highly nuanced here. It never says sex is inherently bad or that money is inherently evil.
Okay, good.
It says that being a slave to the impulse is the knot. The author makes this really funny but cutting observation in the book. He says, retirement doesn't retire the mind.
Oh, that's good.
Right? You could be 80 years old, long past your physical prime, and still be completely obsessed with these drives. The knot is untied not by violently suppressing the desire, because suppression just makes the mind obsess over it more.
Right. Whatever you resist persists.
Exactly. The knot is untied when you stop your deep identification with the urge. You reach a point where you realize, I have this powerful urge, but I am not this urge.
It's the difference between eating simply because you're physically hungry and eating a whole cake because you're profoundly bored and sad and trying to fill a void.
That's it. One is a biological function. The other is psychological bondage.
Okay, that makes a lot of sense. It's really about who is in the driver's seat of your mind. So that's the first hurdle. The second one seems a lot trickier to me. The Vishnu Granthe, the knot of preservation. This one is located up in the heart center.
This one is often much harder to untie because it actively involves things we consider good. Vishnu is the preserver of the universe. So this knot is all about our deep attachment to safety, to family, to tradition, to our emotional bonds.
It's the comfort zone.
It is the comfort zone, but it's far more insidious than just being lazy. Think about it like wearing golden handcuffs.
Golden handcuffs.
Yeah, it's not the bad, toxic stuff that traps you here. It's the good stuff. It's the identity of being the protector of the family or the reliable provider. If you've ever met someone who literally cannot stop aggressively meddling in their adult children's lives because they define their entire existence by that parental relationship, that is the Vishnu Granthi in action.
Man.
They aren't doing it out of malice. They are doing it because if they let go of that role, they don't know who they are anymore.
Yeah.
It is an existential crisis, masquerading as deep love.
Wow. That hits incredibly hard. An existential crisis masquerading as love. I think we all know someone exactly like that. Or, let's be honest, maybe we are someone like that in certain relationships.
It creates a paralyzing fear of change. Untying this specific knot means deeply realizing that absolutely everything is impermanent. You have to learn to love intensely without clinging. And that is incredibly, incredibly difficult for the human mind to do.
Okay, let's move on to the third one before I start overanalyzing my relationship with my own mother. The Rudra Granthi, the knot of destruction. This one is located up in the throat and the brow area.
This is the ego, pure and simple. Rudra is a fierce form of Shiva. This knot is the fundamental sense of I. It's the rigid story you constantly tell yourself about who you are.
Like, I am a victim of my circumstances, or I am a winner, or I am the smartest person in the room.
Exactly. It involves fiercely holding on to past hurts, your judgments of other people, and your perceived separation from the rest of the universe.
And the source says this is the hardest one of all, the final boss of spiritual awakening.
It is the final barrier. Breaking this knot leads directly to what yogis call non-duality. You finally realize that the separate self, this you that you've been protecting your whole life, is actually an illusion.
You realize you are just a wave in the ocean, not separate from the ocean itself.
Beautifully put. And when this knot finally breaks, you don't just understand that concept intellectually by reading a book, you physically and psychologically experience it as reality.
Speaking of experiencing reality differently, there's a story in the source material that just completely melted my brain.
Oh, I know which one you're talking about.
It's the story of King Sushin and Sage Ghana. And honestly, reading the section, it felt like I was reading a script for a Christopher Nolan sci-fi movie. It deals with time dilation.
It is a genuinely mind-bending story. And it deals with the relativity of time and consciousness centuries before Einstein was even born.
So let's set it up. King Sushin is performing a grand royal ritual where he sends a horse out to roam freely, which is a way of claiming territory. It's standard ancient king stuff. The horse wanders into a powerful sage's territory. The sage's son captures the horse, so the king sends his brother Mahasan to go get the horse back.
And here's the massive twist. The sage's son agrees to show Mahasan the horse, but he takes Mahasan inside a mountain to see it.
Right, and he doesn't just walk into a dark, rocky cave.
No. Inside the mountain, Mahasan sees an entire, fully functioning universe. A pocket universe.
There are stars, galaxies, rivers, forests, cities.
Everything. He spends what feels to him like a single, normal day in there, exploring this unbelievable creation. He sees the horse, he eats some food, he rests.
Just a nice little day trip, and then he comes back out of the mountain. And what happens?
Everything on the outside has changed completely. The river he crossed that morning flows in a different direction. The trees are incredibly ancient and dying. The entire architecture of his kingdom is completely gone.
And the reveal is...
The sage calmly explains to him that one day inside his mental creation, that pocket universe inside the mountain, was equal to 12,000 years on Earth.
Wait, pause for a second. 12,000 years, that's not just like, oh no, everyone I know is dead. That's human civilization has completely risen, fallen, and rebuilt itself twice over. His language wouldn't even be spoken anymore. It is absolute, terrifying chronological displacement.
Gone. His family, his kingdom, his entire history dust.
And the lesson here, is the source suggesting this is a literal physical thing that happened, or is it a metaphor for how we perceive time?
It operates on both levels.
Wow.
It's profoundly suggesting that what we rigidly call the real world is actually just a collective projection, a shared illusion generated by mass consciousness.
Wow.
A fully realized yogi who awakens Kundalini essentially masters their own universe. They realize that time and space are totally flexible. If you drastically change your frequency of consciousness, you change your timeline.
Yeah.
It is remarkably similar to the simulation theory that tech billionaires are always talking about today.
The source uses a really grounded scientific parallel here to explain this, doesn't it? About the sun and a laser.
Yes, and it's brilliant. It compares normal, everyday human awareness to the warmth of the sun. It's scattered, it's gentle, it lights up the whole room, you can feel it on your skin, but it doesn't burn through anything.
Right.
Awakened Kundalini awareness is like a laser beam. It is the exact same light, the exact same photons, but it is focused so intensely, so narrowly, that it can effortlessly cut through solid steel.
Yeah.
That is what this practice does to your mind. It turns a scattered light bulb into a surgical laser.
That brings us perfectly to the man himself, the author of the book, Om Swami. Because he didn't just read about laser beam minds and pocket universes in a dusty library, he actually went to the Himalayas to do this.
He lived it.
And his personal account of his own awakening is, well, it is not glamorous at all. It's not an eat, pray, love vacation.
It is the absolute opposite of glamorous. And honestly, that is exactly why his account is so highly credible. If he wrote a book saying, I sat comfortably under a banyan tree, a warm golden light hit me, angels sang, and I felt great, I would be deeply skeptical.
Same.
But he doesn't. He describes living in a freezing tin shed in the snow, pouring, freezing rain leaking in. He talks about massive rats literally running over his body while he tries to hold his meditation posture.
Rats. Plural.
Rats. He talks extensively about the sheer physical misery, and more importantly, he talks about the dark night of the soul.
That feeling of absolute crushing foolishness.
Yes. The internal monologue saying, why did I leave my highly successful, comfortable life for this? Am I literally crazy? Is this entire tradition just a massive lie?
I think anyone who has ever tried to achieve something incredibly difficult relates to that voice, that insidious doubt that just constantly mocks you. You could be on a couch watching Netflix right now, you idiot. Why are you suffering?
Exactly. The mind rebels. But then he describes the actual breakthrough. And it happened during a violent rainstorm. He was deep in meditation, enduring it all, and suddenly his awareness just popped.
The spider. You have to tell them about the spider. Because
Yeah.
this was the specific detail in the book where I actually had to put it down and just stare at the wall for a minute.
This detail is legendary. He says he opened his eyes and saw a spider moving on the wall of his shed. Just a normal, everyday, hairy-legged spider. But because his awareness was so unbelievably heightened, because his mind had finally become that laser beam, he could physically hear the spider walking.
Hear it walking?
He explicitly describes hearing the tiny, microscopic tap, tap, tap of its hairy legs on the wall. Furthermore, he could hear every single individual raindrop hitting the tin roof as a completely distinct, separate sound, rather than just a massive blur of white noise.
It's like his biological senses went from a blurry 480p YouTube video to 8K ultra-high definition instantly.
Yes. But it wasn't just hearing local things. He mentions looking up at the night sky. And he says his awareness expanded so rapidly and so far that he could actively perceive planets that were light years away. He specifically mentions sensing Kepler-22.
Which is a real exoplanet discovered by NASA.
It is.
Yeah.
And the ultimate takeaway he offers from this intense experience is that true awakening isn't some flashy light show. It is hyper-awareness. It is the absolute cessation of all internal conflict. It's being so intensely present that the artificial barrier between you and the spider or you and the distant planet completely dissolves. You don't observe the universe, you are the universe.
Okay, I know there are listeners right now sitting in their cars or walking their dogs thinking, I want the laser beam mind. I want to hear the spider. I want to transcend time. How do we actually do it? And to its credit, the source actually gets very technical here. It's not just vague poetry.
It is surprisingly, rigorously technical. First of all, you have to physically locate the chakras on your own body. And no, you don't just guess or point vaguely at your chest. The source describes a very specific hand measurement technique.
Let's walk through this together. I'm actually doing it right now as we speak. I've got my thumb resting right on my navel.
Okay, perfect. Place your thumb firmly on your navel. Now, spread your hand open, not stretching it painfully like a starfish, just a natural, comfortable, relaxed span of your hand. Where your little finger naturally lands, which is usually right on the sternum, that exact spot is the location of the heart center for you.
Okay, yeah, so my pinky is resting right in the middle of my chest.
Yeah.
It seems. Highly logical, actually.
It is entirely based on your unique bone structure and proportions. It's not based on some generic chart you buy at a New Age store. Everyone's body is different.
Right.
Then, to find the next one, you move your thumb to exactly where your pinky just was, and you measure up again to find the throat center. And then you do it again to find the brow center. It is a literal, personalized anatomical map.
And once you actually find the correct locations, what you do with them.
He outlines 5 crucial elements of the actual meditation practice. First is visualization. And his advice here is crucial. Keep it extremely simple at first.
Right. Don't try to visualize a god with 10 arms holding different weapons.
Exactly. Don't get bogged down in complex deities or counting the exact number of lotus petals. Just vividly visualize the specific color associated with that center. Bright red for the root chakra, for example.
Got it. What's the second element?
Second is mantra. You mentally use the specific seed sound for that chakra, but, and this is a massive pro tip from the author, don't multitask.
What do you mean?
If your mind is wandering, don't frantically try to visualize the color and chant the mantra at the exact same time. You will just get frustrated. Do one, stabilize your focus, and then introduce the other.
And the physical posture, does that matter?
The third element is posture, and it matters immensely. Your spine must be straight like an arrow, hands resting quietly in your lap. If your spine isn't perfectly straight, the internal energy simply cannot flow upward.
He compares it to a hose, right?
Yes, like a kink in a garden hose. You can turn the water tap on full blast, but if the hose is bent, absolutely nothing comes out the other end. Posture is non-negotiable.
And the fourth element is concentration, which he says is the necessary precursor to actual meditation. You can't meditate if you can't even concentrate for 5 seconds.
Precisely. And the fifth element is diet. He strongly recommends a sattvic diet.
Which means what, practically?
Light, fresh, vegetarian food. The logic is simple. Heavy, dead food makes the mind heady and lethargic. If you eat a massive, greasy steak dinner right before meditating, your body's vital energy is entirely focused on digestion in your stomach, not on ascending your spine.
That makes perfect biological sense. But here is the real kicker of this whole section, the required time commitment. This is the part where I think 99% of people are going to fall completely off the wagon.
The source is absolutely brutal here. He pulls no punches. He says if you want rapid, noticeable progress, You need to treat this exactly like you are training for the Olympic Games.
Which
7 hours a day of meditation.
7 hours? I mean, who has 7 hours? I don't even have 7 uninterrupted hours to sleep most nights. That's not a spiritual practice. That is a literal full-time job.
It is a full-time job. That's the cold reality check Om Swami is serving up.
But doesn't that just immediately alienate almost everyone? Is he essentially saying if I can't quit my job and do 7 hours a day, I shouldn't even bother trying?
No, not at all. He explicitly says that even 15 minutes a day is infinitely better than 0. But what he is doing is violently destroying the modern expectation of a shortcut.
Right.
If you want to win an Olympic gold medal, you train like an elite Olympian. If you just want to feel a little bit calmer after work, 15 minutes a day is totally fine.
Just manage your expectations.
Exactly. Don't expect to develop the laser beam mind that can hear spiders on a casual light bulb schedule. He makes a really sobering point. You gladly spend 15 years in school just to get a piece of paper that might get you a decent job. You practice the piano for 10,000 grueling hours just to be a competent concert pianist.
Yeah.
Why on earth do we arrogantly think that mastering the fundamental forces of the entire universe should only take 10 minutes a day using an app?
It's a science of cause and effect.
Exactly.
Wait.
He says, if you do exactly what I did, you will get exactly what I got. But you have to put in the reps.
He also goes into detail about the specific visualization for the very first chakra, the Muladhara. It's intimately associated with the element of earth and our heavy bone structure. And the symbol you're supposed to focus on is the elephant goad.
The Ankusha. It's a sharp, heavy metal tool used by trainers to control adult elephants.
Why an elephant tool?
Because the untrained human mind is exactly like a wild, massive bull elephant. It is unimaginably powerful, erratic, and highly destructive if left to its own devices. You desperately need a sharp goad to tame it and direct its power. That's what this rigorous meditation practice is. It is not a relaxing spa day. It is the grueling work of taming the wild elephant of your mind.
So we have covered a massive amount of ground today. We've talked about the dramatic myths, the psychological knots, time-traveling pocket universes, and the intense Olympian training schedule
I
required.
really have.
Let's bring it all home for the listener. Why actually do this? Why go through all this intense struggle? Because the reality is, most of us are not going to move to a freezing cave in the Himalayas and eat snow.
Right.
What is the core value of this ancient knowledge for the regular person commuting to work right now?
The ultimate value is found in answering the so what.
Yeah.
You don't do this rigorous practice just to become a cheap parlor magician who can levitate. You do it to become fundamentally efficient in your daily reality.
Efficient.
Yes. Think about how much vital energy you subconsciously leak every single day. You leak immense energy getting furiously angry at bad traffic.
Yeah.
You leak energy agonizing over a slightly passive-aggressive email from your boss.
And you leak energy doom scrolling and seeking validation on social media. The leaks are absolutely everywhere.
Awakening your Kundalini, even just a little bit, permanently plugs those leaks. You completely stop identifying with the chaotic noise of the world. You actually become the serene master of your own internal universe, just like the sage inside the mountain.
Wow.
Even if your personal universe is just your cubicle at the office and your family at home, imagine navigating those spaces with the piercing focus of a laser beam instead of the weak, scattered warmth of a light bulb. You become remarkably effective. You become unshakably calm. You become powerful in the absolute truest sense of the word.
It all circles perfectly back to that Hanuman analogy we started with, doesn't it?
It really does. The infinite power is already sitting right there inside you. You aren't going to the airport gift shop to buy a magic quartz pendant to get power from the outside. You are doing the hard, internal work to finally remember the power you already possess.
You are systematically stripping away the amnesia.
Exactly. You're curing the amnesia.
Yeah. That is just such a powerful, paradigm-shifting thought to leave on. You aren't fundamentally broken. You're just a forgetful god walking around thinking you're a monkey.
That's the absolute truth of it.
But, that brings up one last slightly provocative thought for you listening at home. If the only thing standing between you and infinite awareness is just remembering who you are, what if the amnesia isn't an accident? What if a part of you is actively choosing to stay asleep because waking up, taming that wild elephant, is just too much work?
Ooh, that is a heavy question to sit with.
We hope this deep dive helped you chip away at least a little bit of that amnesia today. Maybe don't quit your day job to go stare at hairy spiders in a tin shed just yet, but maybe, just maybe, take 10 minutes today, sit with a straight spine, and just listen. Really listen to the silence. Who knows what you might actually hear?
Indeed.
Thanks for joining us on this deep dive. We'll catch you in the next one.